Before the night fully settled, before the world decided to rest, there was a moment where everything became very quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, but full. A single lamppost stood awake while the rest of the street slept, its warm light spilling gently onto the pavement below. The air was cool, calm, and still, as if even time had slowed down to listen. No cars passed, no voices called out, only the soft hum of the lamp, steady and patient. And there, right beneath that glow, something small waited, not calling for attention, not asking to be found, just resting there, as if it had been left for the exact right person, at the exact right moment, maybe tonight. That person is you. If your mind feels tired, if your heart feels a little heavy, this night isn't asking you to solve anything. It's only inviting you to slow down, to listen, and to rest. So take a gentle breath in and let it out slowly. You are safe here, and the story is about to begin. It was the kind of night that felt as if the whole world had gently exhaled and decided not to breathe in too quickly again. The streets were empty, not in a lonely way, but in a rested way, like a small town wrapped in a blanket. The air was cool and clean, with a faint scent of damp stone and faraway trees. Somewhere in the distance, a soft wind moved through leaves with a slow, patient whisper. And under a single lamp post, one that stood near the curve of a quiet road, something waited. Not something loud, not something urgent, just something placed with care. The lamp glowed the way an old friend might speak, warm, steady, and gentle. Its light pooled onto the pavement in a soft circle, turning the ground into a small island of gold in an ocean of moonlit gray. If you stood there long enough, you could hear the subtle music of the night, a far-off dog settling down, the muted hum of electricity inside the lamp, the nearly silent rustle of a newspaper left folded on a porch step. And if you looked closely, very closely, you might notice the edge of an envelope, resting near the base of the lamppost. It wasn't stuck or trapped or blowing around helplessly. It was simply there, as if it belonged. The envelope was pale, almost cream-colored, with a soft texture like handmade paper. It had no stamp, no address, no name on the front. Only a small marking, drawn in ink, near the bottom corner. A tiny lantern, not perfectly drawn, not fancy, just simple and sincere. For a long moment, the envelope lay in silence, while the lamp continued to glow above it. The light didn't rush. The night didn't hurry. The whole scene felt like a pause the world had decided to take, for anyone who needed it. And somewhere nearby, footsteps began to approach, slow and unhurried. The kind of steps that don't disturb the night. They move with it. A person was walking toward the lamppost, not because they were lost, but because they liked walking at night. Because there are some thoughts that only become gentle when the world is quiet enough to hold them. The steps came closer, and the lamppost kept shining, as if it had been waiting for exactly this moment. The person's name was Rowan. Rowan wasn't the kind of person who needed a busy day to feel alive. In fact, Rowan felt most like themselves when the world was calm, when things were small and simple. Rowan lived in a modest little house at the edge of town where the streets turned into softer roads, and the roads slowly became dirt paths, and the paths eventually melted into fields and trees. Inside Rowan's home, everything had a place, not in a strict way, but in a peaceful way. A worn mug always sat near the kettle. A knitted blanket always waited on the couch. A small lamp always glowed in the corner, casting warm honey light onto a stack of books that smelled faintly of paper and time. Rowan's life was gentle, not perfect, but gentle. There were days when Rowan felt a quiet heaviness in the chest. Not sharp sadness, not despair, just something like an unfinished sentence. Like a question that didn't demand an answer, but still lingered. So Rowan walked at night, not to escape life, but to soften it. Night walks were Rowan's way of letting thoughts slow down. The cool air made everything feel cleaner. The dark sky made problems feel smaller. The moonlight made even ordinary houses look like quiet ships in a sleepy harbor. Rowan often followed the same path, down the street, past the closed bakery, past the little park where swings barely moved in the breeze, and toward the lamppost near the curve of the road. Rowan liked that lamppost. It had always been there, humming softly, glowing steadily. It reminded Rowan of something constant, something that didn't ask questions, didn't judge, didn't rush. Tonight, as Rowan approached, they felt the familiar ease settle into their shoulders. A slow breath in, a slower breath out. Then Rowan saw it, the envelope. It lay at the base of the lamppost like a small, quiet secret. Rowan's steps slowed even more, not from fear, only curiosity, soft and careful. Rowan crouched down, knees bending slowly, and reached for it. The paper felt cool from the night air, smooth, real, something that had been held by another human hand. Rowan turned the envelope over once, twice, no name, no address, only the little lantern mark. Rowan's heart didn't race. There was no urgency in the moment, only that gentle feeling of being invited into something calm. Rowan sat on a nearby bench under the lamp's warm glow. The light softened the corners of the world. The night remained quiet, and with a steady breath, Rowan slid a finger under the envelope flap. It opened easily, like it wanted to be opened. Inside was a single letter, folded neatly. The paper was thick and slightly textured, the way old stationery sometimes is. Rowan unfolded it slowly, and the ink inside looked like it had been written with intention and kindness. Rowan began to read, and almost immediately, something inside them softened, as if the words were not just being read, but gently placed into the heart. The handwriting was calm, steady, slightly slanted, like someone who writes slowly, thinking between lines. The letter began like this: "If you found this under the lamppost, then you are exactly where you need to be." Rowan blinked once, not in shock, more like a quiet recognition, the way you might feel when someone says your name gently from another room. The letter continued: "I don't know who you are, but I know what nights can feel like. I know how the world can grow quiet, and how thoughts can grow louder in that quiet. So I'm leaving this here, not to disturb your night, but to keep you company." Rowan read slowly, carefully. The words felt warm. The lamp above hummed, a soft electrical lullaby. This lamppost has always been a small lighthouse for people who walk when they need peace. Maybe you walk because your day was heavy. Maybe you walk because you miss something. Maybe you walk because you need to remember that the world is still gentle. Rowan let out a breath they hadn't realized they were holding. The air entered their lungs like cool silk. The letter's tone was intimate, like a friend who doesn't demand conversation, only offers presence. If you're tired, you don't have to carry everything tonight. The night is not asking you to solve anything. The night is only asking you to rest. Rowan's shoulders sank, just a little. The letter went on. It told a small story about someone who once felt lost in their own mind, who found comfort in small routines. It described the simple things: warm tea, folded blankets, quiet streets, the feeling of a lamp's glow on your skin. The writer seemed to understand something deeply, that comfort is not always grand. Sometimes comfort is just being gently seen. Wherever you are in your life, the letter said, you are allowed to be in between. You are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to be soft. Rowan paused for a moment, looking up at the lamp post. The light was steady, patient. It felt like the lamp wasn't just lighting the street. It was lighting the inside of Rowan's chest, where that unfinished sentence lived. Rowan returned to the letter. Near the bottom, the writer had added a small instruction. When you're ready, fold this letter again and keep it, or leave it for the next person. Either way, let the warmth of these words stay with you longer than the night. Rowan sat very still. They didn't feel pressured. They didn't feel startled. They felt safe, and in that safety, a gentle thought arrived. What if this letter wasn't random? What if it was part of something quietly beautiful? Rowan looked again at the little lantern drawing on the envelope. A lantern, meant to guide, not to force. Rowan's fingers traced the edge of the paper, and slowly they began to smile. Not a big smile, just the kind that rises in the heart like warm light. Rowan folded the letter once, carefully, as if tucking it into a small bed. Then, Rowan noticed something else inside the envelope. A second slip of paper, smaller, almost like a note. Rowan unfolded it, and it simply read, "Follow the glow." Not far. Rowan looked down the road. The street was empty and quiet, lit by the lamppost behind them. And, in the distance, another softer glow, like a second lamp, far ahead. Rowan stood slowly. The night remained kind, and without rushing, Rowan began to walk, following the gentle suggestion of the light. Rowan's footsteps moved in a slow rhythm. Step, step, step. The town felt like it was sleeping peacefully. Windows were dark, curtains hung still. A few porch lights glowed like tiny stars close to the ground. The air was cool, but not cold. It carried the faint scent of night-blooming flowers from a garden Rowan passed. Somewhere nearby, a cat padded quietly across a fence, moving like a shadow made of velvet. Rowan followed the glow in the distance. As they walked, the thoughts in their mind became fewer and softer. It wasn't that life suddenly became simple. It was that, for this moment, Rowan didn't have to hold it tightly. Eventually, Rowan reached a small pathway that branched away from the road. It was lined with low stones and soft grass. At the end of the path stood another light source. Not a street lamp this time, but a warm lantern hanging beside a wooden gate. The lantern glow was golden, gentle, like late evening sunlight captured and held. Rowan approached the gate. There was no lock, no sign that said keep out, only a small wooden plaque with words carved into it. Quiet welcome. Rowan pushed the gate open with a soft creak that sounded more like a yawn than a noise. Inside was a small garden courtyard. It felt hidden, safe, like a secret place made for calm hearts. There were benches arranged under trees. A little fountain in the center made a soft, continuous sound, water trickling, steady and soothing. And on one bench, beneath a tree, there was a small basket. Inside the basket were more envelopes, each one cream-colored, each one marked with a tiny lantern. Rowan sat down slowly on the nearest bench, feeling the wood cool beneath them. The fountain's sound was like breathing, in, out. Rowan picked up one envelope from the basket. This one did have a word on the front. Just one. Tonight. Rowan opened it carefully. Inside, the letter was shorter, simpler. It read, "Tonight is not for fixing everything. Tonight is for softening. Tonight is for resting your mind the way you rest your body." Rowan felt a warmth spread through the chest, like the kind you feel when someone says, "It's okay. I've got you." The letter continued, "If your thoughts are busy, let them walk slowly. If your heart feels tired, let it sit down. You are allowed to feel safe. You are allowed to be held by quiet." Rowan looked around the garden. There was no one else here. And yet, it didn't feel empty. It felt full of kindness, like a room after someone has cleaned it gently, left a blanket folded, and warmed the space with a small lamp. Rowan leaned back on the bench. The tree leaves moved softly above, whispering in the wind. The fountain continued its calm music. Rowan realized something important. This place wasn't magical in a loud way. It was magical in the way comfort is magical, because someone, somewhere, had decided to leave peace behind for strangers. Rowan closed their eyes for a moment, and in that moment, the body began to feel heavier, in a good way, like sinking into a mattress, like drifting. Rowan's breathing slowed. The thoughts that used to crowd the mind now felt like distant birds, far away, flying slowly across the sky. Rowan opened their eyes again and saw something beside the basket, a small notebook. On its cover, it said, "If you want, leave a gentle message." Rowan touched the notebook's edge. The paper inside looked thick, welcoming. Rowan didn't feel pressured to write, but the idea felt comforting, not to perform, not to impress, only to pass kindness forward. Rowan picked up the pen attached to the notebook, and after a long, calm breath, Rowan wrote a few words, slowly, carefully. "You're reading this. I hope you feel safe. I hope you can rest tonight. You don't have to carry everything alone." Rowan placed the pen back. Then Rowan sat quietly, letting the lantern light warm the face. The air moved gently, and Rowan felt something they hadn't felt in a long time. Emotional safety. Not the kind that comes from answers, the kind that comes from softness, from being allowed to be human. Rowan stood slowly, not wanting to break the calm. The body felt loose and warm, like muscles had finally remembered how to let go. They walked back through the garden, Past the fountain, past the benches, past the basket of lantern-marked envelopes. At the gate, Rowan paused. The lantern beside it glowed steadily, like it was saying, "You can return whenever you need." Rowan closed the gate softly behind them and began the walk home. The town was even quieter now. The night had deepened. The moon was higher. Its pale light painted rooftops and trees in gentle silver. Rowan's steps were slower than before, not because they were tired in a heavy way, but because they were relaxed. The letter, the first one, rested in Rowan's pocket, folded neatly. It felt like carrying a small warmth. As Rowan walked, their mind replayed some of the lines. Tonight is not for fixing everything. You are allowed to be soft. Let the night hold you. The words weren't loud. They didn't demand. They simply soothed. When Rowan reached home, they stepped inside and closed the door quietly. The house welcomed them with familiar stillness. Rowan took off their shoes, moved slowly, as if the air itself was delicate. They went to the kitchen and poured a little warm water into the kettle, not because they needed tea, but because the sound of it felt comforting. The kettle clicked softly. The cup sat waiting. A small lamp in the living room cast warm light on the couch and the folded blanket. Rowan sat down, the cushion gently taking their weight. For a moment, Rowan just listened. The quiet hum of the house, the faint sound of wind outside, the comforting silence between everything. Rowan took the letter from their pocket and placed it on the table. Not thrown, placed, like something meaningful. Then Rowan stood again and walked to the bedroom. The bed looked soft, inviting. Sheets slightly cool. Pillow waiting patiently. Rowan climbed in slowly. The blanket pulled up like a gentle embrace. Rowan's body sank into the mattress. And now, everything began to slow even more. Breathing. Easy. Steady. Rowan turned off the bedside lamp. Darkness filled the room, but it wasn't empty. It was full of calm. The letter on the table, the memory of the lantern garden, the steady glow of the lamppost in the street. These were like soft companions. Outside, the town continued to sleep. And somewhere under that lamppost, maybe another envelope would appear tomorrow night. Or maybe someone else would leave a message, not because they had to, because kindness, when it's quiet and simple, likes to spread. Rowan's eyes grew heavier. The muscles in the face softened. The jaw relaxed. The shoulders dropped into stillness. The breath became slow and deep, in and out, in and out. And as Rowan drifted towards sleep, a final thought arrived. Not as a sentence, but as a feeling. That it's okay to rest, that it's safe to let go, that tonight, you are held. The night wrapped itself gently around everything. The world stayed quiet. The lamppost kept glowing somewhere out there, steady and warm. And the story, like a lullaby, faded into soft silence until there was only peace, only breath, only sleep. And now, there is nothing left to do, no thoughts to follow, no moments to hold on to. The night has done its work gently, and your body knows how to rest. Breathing becomes slow, easy, natural, each breath sinking you deeper, into comfort, into stillness. The lamppost continues to glow somewhere far away, steady and kind, while the world sleeps peacefully beneath the sky. Nothing needs your attention anymore. You are warm, you are safe, you are held by the quiet. Let the sounds fade. Let the images soften. Let the story drift away, and as sleep wraps around you like a soft blanket, you can simply rest. Good night.